is very, very capable. So yeah, she is capable. She's a pig. See, off these little trails, she's fine, to be honest. Not too bad. I really like her. Very stable, as long as you get walking. Where it gets a little bit more, you know, sketchy. You see that? No chance. Wait backwards. Don't be afraid. She's nice until you have to pick her up. Honestly, she's nice. It's definitely a bike where you can do off-road. I wouldn't start talking about 70, 30, 80, 20, this and that. It just depends what kind of off-road. If you want to do some technical riding, get yourself an enduro bike, because this one is going to do everything, but maybe not exceptionally well, I think. But she's great because she can do. That's her specialty, doing everything. Here, see these kind of lakes, there's a little bit of mud, a little bit of everything. I'm on my feet right now. She's stable. Little steps over there, let's do those. Yep, all good. Wider track, so a little bit of rocks. I'd much prefer an enduro bike, but let's do this downhill bit. Now, let's speak about the biggest problem this bike has, or what people are most afraid about this bike. So, how tall is this bike? How tall do you have to be? And everyone knows it's a top-heavy bike. So, just for reference, I'm 5'9"-ish. Now, the fact is, you don't really have to be too tall to ride this bike. And it's not your final height that kind of decides if you're gonna be safe, you're gonna feel safe on it. It's more your inseam. You should measure your inseam, because you could be 6 foot and have a short inseam and you'd still have problems. Your inseam is a measurement between your ankle with no shoes, and you have to measure kind of inside this area. The way I did it when I didn't have the bike and I couldn't test it out, I just got a piece of string, literally held it with the back of my foot, then got the measurements to the inside of my leg, the uppermost inside part of the leg, and then just measured that string. My inseam is 31 inches, which for my height is actually not bad. I'm 5'9", so if people are 5'8", 5'9", if you're lucky and you have a longer inseam, I give it a shot. Just to give you some reference, what you can do on the bike is you can buy lowering links. I know in the forums people say lowering links, misalign your suspension, the geometry changes. Yes, that's true. However, I personally believe if you're not Paul Terres, if you're not like a pro racing, doing rallies to a high level, I don't think that makes much of a difference, to be honest. I have right now the 20 mil lowering links. You can get them up to 40 mil, I believe. 40 mil is a bit too much. I think it's too low to the ground and you lose ground clearance. 20 mils is fine. It's not too bad. Just remember to adjust, of course, the top clamps. I think I have them set to 17 millimeters. That means the fork is going 17 millimeters up from where it was, and I think the standard length, so when you buy the bike, it's 7 millimeters from the top cap to the actual fork piece that holds the fork on top. So 7 millimeters, I think I have it at 17, but you can find online anything you need in terms of the numbers. So again, I have the low seats on the Rally, and I'm thinking of putting the Rally seat back on, which is a bit taller, but with this height you can see that I can flat foot on one side. It's not a big deal. With 2 feet, it's about like that. I'd say half a foot is touching the ground. If you have motocross off-road boots, you'll be fine because they make you a little bit taller, of course. And the problem, I don't think you should be put off by the height of the bike. I'm used to using enduro bikes as well. They're taller. They're way taller than this, even in standard form. The problem with this bike is not the height per se. It is the fact that it carries all the weight up high. So enduro bikes, usually the center of gravity is lower, where this one, of course, to have that ground clearance and the big engine, the tank, you can kind of feel it up here. So the situation is this: if you're going off-road for the first time, it's not gonna be super easy, I'm not gonna lie. An enduro bike, you're gonna have much more fun. It's gonna be easier. This bike kind of feels a bit like a pendulum, if you will, an inverse pendulum, where the weight is on top. So you can imagine the top weight kind of wants to fall on either side. However, once you get to 5 kilometers an hour and you start getting some momentum, this handles beautifully off-road. You wouldn't believe how much it weighs. So that's probably why many people say, oh, it's not the best for single track. You can do single track if you want. It's just not the best because once you get into slow technical maneuvers, I'm talking like clutch work, uphill, rocks, you get stuck, then you can feel the weight. If it's something a little bit more, easy, say ACT tracks or the easier TET, for example, lines, you should be fine. In essence, I would say don't let the height discourage you, but do measure your inseam. I think if you're 28, 29, you could be fine. You could lower it more if you wanted to. That's not the problem. Like I said once to a person that was asking on Reddit, go to the gym. Literally, I'm not joking. Do some deadlifts, do squats. Make sure your legs are strong to keep it upright. It's not a disaster. It's not going to give you problems on the road. Off-road, not too bad. I wouldn't recommend it to a beginner who just wants to do off-road. Get a dual sport for that. But if you have some experience off-road, or you want to be able kind of to do both light to medium off-road, so no pull to rest stuff, definitely a good bike to choose. It kind of can do it all. Master of nothing, but really good at everything else. I'm having a hard time selling it myself because I don't want to sell it. So yeah, these are my thoughts. These are a few accessories you should have if you plan on bringing your T7 off-road. The first one is the suspension. If you don't want to spend too much money, I suggest you get the springs changed in the back and in the front. In the UK, K-Tech is the best one, of course. K-Tech suspension, just change the springs. If you can do a revolve, that would be great, but the stock suspension is way too soft. The second most important thing, close to the first, would be the tires. So the tires, the original ones are useless off-road. And this is already a pretty heavy bike. The center of gravity is pretty high as well. If you have the original tires or street-based tires, you're not going to have a good time. They're not going to give you enough grip. You're not going to have fun. Another very important thing, if you have the Rally Edition, you can kind of get by, but I really suggest to get an aftermarket bash guard. Now this one is the GP Mucci. It's a Rally bash guard. This kind of covers up to the top. There's another one from Adventure Spec, which is excellent, but do definitely get a bigger one because the original ones sometimes are plastic or thinner metal. They won't protect the motor, the engine, the frame from any rocks that you will definitely get off-road, so you want to get that protected. Last but not least, you have to change the original handguards. These, of course, are bark busters. Some people prefer to have the open ones. I prefer to have the closed ones just because they offer a little bit more protection up here. And yeah, definitely get the bark busters if you can. If not, any other aftermarket ones that don't fold and that offer some protection to your hand. Here are another few accessories that I think are really cool in the T7. They're not necessary, I just like them. I'll show you them. Maybe they could be useful for you. So if you come closer, these are Denali lights. Really cool. I have the controller directly on the handlebar. You don't need these. They're just a nice to have. They cost a lot, but they do really give a nice kind of light, nice and bright. Again, not super needed, but I think they're beautiful for what they do. On to something a little bit more important, which is a problem on the T7, at least what the users say, is Camel ADV's the brake fix. This kind of fixes the sponginess, the braking problems the T7 has. Now, again, it does brake the bike, but this kind of fixes it, gives you a little bit more leverage and makes the back brake a little bit more useful. Another thing I do not have, but I plan on getting in the future, since on the T7 they decided to put, of course, the exhaust with a hinge over here instead of having a nice stop exhaust. You can get one of those, that's probably best. But if you don't and you fall on this side, what happens a lot of times is the exhaust kind of bends in, and that could damage right over here because it can dig in and you kind of have to tug it out. It didn't happen yet on mine, but if you have some extra cash, get some protectors for this. On to some other things. General protection. Acerbis makes these nice protectors. If you're going off-road, yes, they'll cost a little bit, but it's a worthwhile investment, I think, to protect everything. And then, on this other side, actually, we have a few more protections, again, from the engine, for the engine. Acerbis, again, RNG, I know, do them as well. They are really good. And probably the most important, and I did not mention, right down here. So the T7 does not come with a chain guide. It may seem like something stupid, but because of the way the chain over here is attached, of course, it has this very steep angle, and the chain on T7s have to be a little bit slack than what you'd think, a little bit more. If you don't have a chain guide, it has happened to some people, and if you get a large bump, the chain can actually get off the sprocket, and if it launches right inside the front of your engine, it could punch a hole through it. Now, the only way to kind of avoid that happening is to buy this chain guide. Acerbis makes the best one. There are a few cheap ones on eBay with no brand. Don't buy those. Buy this one. It's 50 quid. Probably your best investment to protect the engine, actually. So that's another really good one. I mean, there's also pivot pegs. They're really nice because they allow your foot to dig in when you're standing up. You can do many things. I have a Scott Olin's steering dampener, I should say. Again, you don't need it, but it is useful when, you know, the front end starts to be wobbly. If you're on mud, if you're on sand, you can just crank it up and it just becomes a little bit more stable. Then finally, something to hold your navigation. I use this because you can put a tablet in here. I use the Samsung Tab Active 2, which is really cheap on eBay. You get them used. This works for the Samsung Tab 2 and 3. Brodit makes these on Amazon. And behind here, it's just something to hold the tablet on the little bar. Don't know if you can see it really well. Nice CNC makes it. Just search for amps brackets, and I think it's the 8 or 12 millimeter hole. And you can also put your Garmin's, you know, Zumos, the TomToms. I just use it to hold this, and I can choose the orientation, of course, of the tablet.